That's super. Well, welcome everyone. So good to see you guys. We've got Sean on the tech stuff, which is actually just wisdom, I suppose. I always say, when you guys ask me some hard questions, the art is to give it to the gift. And so, Sean, good to have you. Nice to see you guys. And there are questions you guys can ask. Dom, I can see you saying fantastic there. So there are questions. Maybe, Sean, you can just take us through a few of the protocols for this evening around Zoom, just so the guys can know how it all works. And that'll be a good time just to kick off.
Awesome. Okay. So there's guys going to be watching on different channels. You might, I firstly apologize for my video quality. I am using a terrible Lenovo webcam as my camera because I'm controlling the broadcast here. So it's shocking quality, but at least it covers my good looks for a bit. So you might be joining us on Facebook Live. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, you can comment on that feed. It might just take a bit of time before we see it because this is a live Zoom webinar. If you're on Facebook Live and you want to join us, I did add the link to hop onto this chat. So you can come hop on this chat live with us. We are watching the comments on the right-hand side. We can answer those comments quite quickly. If you want to chat, obviously just type a message. You can direct a question to us, to all the panelists, to a specific panelist as well if you want. At the 2, there's a little drop down where it says at the currently all panelists, or you can ask Mike, Mark, or myself a specific question around something you might have heard. Yeah, and that's basic protocols around it.
Okay, cool. So first up, I just want to say welcome to Michael and Michael Griffiths. He is a brand strategist and a brand specialist. He loves branding. He's also very familiar with the digital world and social media and multi-skilled. And then most of us know Sean. And if you do know Sean well, as I've got to know Sean over these years, I've recognized his real knack and gift to use video on social media and really get massive amount of views. And that you just don't wake up in the morning and that happens. As perhaps ignorant as I am to this, we're going to all learn about social media. We're going to all learn about digital tonight. And I really trust it's going to be helpful. You know, I remember, so before I go and say that, I just do want to say as well, as I said last time, there are many business chats we can be on. There's massive information overload in the world we live today. But specifically in these business chats, we really do come with a kingdom dynamic. We really are asking unashamedly Jesus and his principles to lead us in our business. And I really do trust as well that the Holy Spirit is very much with us and leading us in these discussions. So I do want to say that up front. And in saying that, I really trust that what we are going to talk about is going to be completely unique because of that. And as much as I think there are many gifted businessmen in the world, I do, as I said last time, sense that our revival, I just sense there's going to be an economic dynamic to the revival that's coming. We know that that's what Africa needs, and we really trust, as the head and not the tail, the church will have gifted people in place to harness the opportunities in the marketplace. And one of the huge opportunities which we're going to talk about today is the digital, is social media, are these roads. So welcome, guys. Good to have all of you here. Thank you to Sean and Mike. They're going to take us forward. But just to kick off, you know, I thought, Sean, one of my revelations was when I went to America probably 4 or 5 years ago, and there were 4 of us staying in a really probably, average home in a very middle to lower class suburb in Reading, and they had this tiny modem in this cottage, and we were all these South Africans that hadn't actually been used to big data, like high-speed internet and free data. And this modem was free. I mean, we could just download as much stuff as we wanted. And it happened, and Apple happened to be doing an update at that time. So 4 of us all logged onto this internet. We all upgraded our phones. And the first thing I realized is my whole journey with social media, with digital media changed when I wasn't concerned about data and I started watching videos. And the first thing I noticed that changed is I immediately stopped reading stuff and started watching stuff. And I realized that data, when data is not an issue, and it still is very much an issue for a lot of us in South Africa, but that's changing quickly. But when data is not an issue, the whole landscape changed. So just maybe both Mike and Sean, just some comments on that and this issue of data and the sense I sense as data becomes more ubiquitous, more available, it becomes cheaper. How's that going to affect, do you think, business and social media and building our brands online? Sean, you go first.
Yeah, so for me, it's beautiful. Data is beautiful. I mean, for myself, I've got myself a 40 meg fiber line at home, uncapped. So for me as well, data is definitely not an issue. And yeah, it definitely changes the way we consume stuff, but also from a business perspective, how we can portray ourselves. So because there's greater access, it means we can use different mediums. So for example, I can write something or I can send a photo about something, but nothing speaks better or to a brand or about my brand than me physically standing there and communicating on a video. They can see my expression. I can build an audience. People get to know me as a person. And so it just opens up this incredible world to us that we potentially didn't have in the past. So yeah, massive opportunity from obviously faster internet and access.
Mike, what's your comment on?
You were right. We are a little bit disadvantaged here in Africa with data, but I think the one thing data does is it supports the internet, and what the internet's really done is decentralized our communication channels. And so the greater access or the more data we have, the more opportunity we have as individuals to build meaningful connections with each other online. And that's really the beauty of this new digital world. It's this decentralization of communication or branding or business or whatever you want to look at it. The internet has allowed us to connect with each other more authentically. And I think the more Africa and especially, your experience internationally we have with data, we just get more creative and more authentic with the ways we connect with each other. But the reality is we still need to connect with each other authentically. And I think that's the beauty of the digital world. It allows us to be real.
So that's very interesting because you guys mention words like authenticity, like Mike, you're saying connected. You also use this word decentralized. And so I want to ask you then, I've been on social media 16 years, 17 years, like I said, I don't know if I said it last time, but I haven't posted. I think I've posted maybe 10 posts on Facebook over the last 16 years. And yet, the current COVID situation, we're becoming experts on all these things. I wasn't such an expert last week, but this week's better. But the truth is we're having to upskill ourselves. But you use words like decentralized, like connection, like authentic. I mean, those are big biblical words. Both of you are kingdom men. Both of you are radical believers. Is this a Roman road? I mean, I've been saying that, digital media is a Roman road. Can you guys speak into, can we be authentic? And can we use this just from a kingdom perspective? Let's just forget the business for now, but really, I mean, these principles of authenticity, whether it be in a church or our business, are both important. But is that a reality to make this experience authentic? Is it? Can we actually have connection? This is something our home groups are all going to have to get around. But it's the same for my sales staff. My sales staff can't go and visit someone. They've got to have Zoom meetings. So maybe you guys can touch a little bit on the authenticity, the connection, the decentralization, and how that and is it a real Roman road that we can use for the good, not only of our business but for the gospel as well?
Yeah. Mark, Sean, you want to go first? Me. Okay, cool. So maybe let me touch in on the connection side. So for me, I've been doing videos for many years and social media, and before social media, I was on forums. I had quite a big fishing forum that I used to run, which then went into YouTube at the time, which was the biggest sort of video opportunity. And what I found is while I've been building that audience, so constantly posting, constantly sharing my life, and the way I've always posted is not from a look at me type of post, but more of this is what I do, come enjoy this journey with me, free information. So information that people were charging for, I then brought it free. So I would take my experience, I would give that to them free. And what that did is it did create an incredible connection. And I'll talk back to my Fishing Corner days when I used to run the online website and forum. And a part of my business was running competitions as well. And I started getting a massive following on my fishing videos online. And I'd be fairly consistent at posting them, but always giving free information, showing guys how to do it, free GPS spots, everything. I used to give guys a lot of stuff. Thus, I got quite a decent following from that. And what started happening, and it would drive my family a little bit insane, is when we would drive anywhere up down the coast, people would come and chat to me as if they knew me. I had absolutely no clue who this person was. But then the penny eventually dropped. Oh, flip, these guys were watching me on my video. And for them, they had built an authentic relationship with me. Not obviously the other way around, because I'm not really in their lives. I don't really know what's going on. But that authentic relationship that you're creating also has massive opportunity, business opportunity linked to it. So when I joined Pinnacle Kayaks back in the day, the sales almost doubled because I jumped onto a Pinnacle kayak and I fished off it and I gave guys free information. Therefore, people wanted to use what I was using because they liked me as a person. And in essence, I became that brand. Or, yeah. So that's sort of more around authenticity.
Mike, what are your some of your
thoughts? I think, Sean, that's an amazing example that you used, and the fact that you were able to develop an authentic relationship with people through giving away free information is a beautiful picture of how this new digital world works. And one thing that often comes up in conversations, my background is very much the business side of things. So building a brand in a business to business or a business to consumer marketplace, and then how do we market that? So one of the things that comes up is this new world that we live in is very centered around value creation. And so our economy is not necessarily profit and loss. It's what value can I create? And digital, Mark, to answer your question, allows us to build authentic relationships with each other around value, co-creation or delivery or experience, but value is very much at the center of that. And I think the most exciting thing for me on this journey as a Christian has really been to try and unpack and discover as an individual what it means for me to have value to offer and then deliver that value in a business context, whether I'm trying to build a brand as an employee and it's a personal brand and I'm trying to grow my own career, or if I'm trying to offer a product or a service. At some points, I've got to really understand the value that I really deliver to people, because the new world, you can't get away with selling ice to Eskimos anymore. You've really got to validate and back up the value you give to people. And only then will they be prepared to pay you for it. And so what Sean has said is so true. This content marketing and this giving away value for free is a big part of the new world we live in. And it's almost like how much more value can you give than the person next to you? And I think that's an exciting as an individual, because all of a sudden I now have value to add to the world around me. And that just gets me excited, because as a Christian, it's about them. It's not about me. And that principle can be applied on social media, whether you're trying to run your own social media profile and just trying to get more authentic online because you can't go out and hang with your mates by the pool, or, you're trying to build a business and you're actually trying to add value to people who you can't talk to in the shops anymore. You can't sell to in the aisles. You've got to connect with them in their homes. And so what value can you deliver there? And that's how I see this new world working, is how much more value can we deliver as individuals, as businesses, as organizations. And that's an authentic place to be in. Yeah.
So what do you say to guys now who they're probably listening in? A lot of guys there's almost like I sense a hurdle that you need to jump over to kind of, like you guys are saying, get yourself out there. And like we've seen, I think a lot of people are fearful. We've seen how people can destroy their whole life by posting silly things on social media, which I think is scary for a lot of people. But maybe you guys can speak into, and Sean, I know you've definitely crossed this hurdle watching some of the stuff. I mean, you've brought your family onto social media. Your young daughter, I mean, all of them are amazing, like actors. But there is this sense, maybe you can speak a little bit. Maybe there are a couple of guys thinking, wow, they can't. They still trying to get their head around crossing this divide to just put themselves out there to the whole world. It's vulnerable. There's probably fear involved, but it's something that you guys said, and it's something that Mark Sturton shared last week. The biblical perspective, it's actually not about me. It's actually, I'm putting out value there for the sake of others. Is that something of certainly your mindset in terms of just breaking that barrier, that just to get you over the line and get you out onto social media? Sean?
Yeah, so for me, partly I enjoy it, so that does help. I'm a creative by nature, so I enjoy creating stuff. So that definitely helps. But I think Mark said this just now. The reality is we live in a digital world at the moment, especially now in COVID-19. I mean, if you're not online, you're done. You know, you really are. Well, I don't mean you're done, but what I'm saying is at this particular point. So like, this is such a great opportunity to really learn online and get the skills behind it. But there's a couple things that I think you got to answer before you go online. So you don't just go online for the sake of going online. I don't just make videos for the sake of making videos. So generally, most of my videos I've got different categories that I make them in. One is a research category, and that's where I will try different things. I'll be stupid. I'll try be a comedian. I'll try be a whole bunch of different things, and I'll see what hits. So I'll say, oh, geez, that worked really well. So that's part of my research. That one got shared a lot. Why? And then ask the question, why did that get shared a lot? You know, what was it about it that made it, gave it great shareability? Or one got a lot of engagement, but didn't necessarily got lots of shares. Why? So it's asking those sort of questions around the content that you're going to create. So that's my one box, is my testing category. My other box is, okay, I know what works. And now I need some sort of engagement, or I want to communicate a message, or I want to do something. I'm now going to use the tools that I've learned, and I'm going to throw them out there. But the most important thing to realize is that we are living in a digital age. And if we're not good at it, let's, as a business, find someone that is good at it. So create an opportunity to employ someone in that area who might be a creative, who might be really good at it, who might be, that's their skill, and bring them into your business to help you grow that particular aspect of your business if you're not going to do it yourself, or someone in your core team or whatever isn't going to take it and run with it.
So Mike, just to follow on from that, and I was listening to Gary Vee, who's, he certainly did change my perspective on social media, particularly, and just getting out there. But one of the statements he said, and maybe you can speak about this from a brand perspective, is, he just said, guys, you're kidding yourself. In 10 years' time, the Z generation are going to have Alexa in their car, and they're going to say, Alexa, I want to buy a T-shirt or a microchip for my dog. And if you haven't done the work behind the scenes to build your brand on the Google searches and on the, you just build your brand, however that looks like, and we can get into that now online. He says, you're done. Forget it. You can have as many issues as you want about social media and as many excuses as to why you don't want to be on it. But literally his take is, if you don't build that now, you are done. What are your comments around that? As Sean was saying, the digital, we're in a digital world, as well as your brand, and building a brand online.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people approach social media and marketing and building a brand like an expense. And so it becomes a very, or something that's about them. And we've just discussed how this whole journey and this new world we live in is not about us as individuals. It's about the value we can create for others. And so I think if you spend your time on social media touting about your own abilities and trying to sell to people, like a traditional idea or this preconceived kind of stereotypical salesman that we have, it's an immediate turn-off for people, because social media is very personal. It's in my lounge. And so, if you approach it as a relationship building exercise as opposed to a selling exercise, then it's more of an investment. And I think that's really what Gary Vee's getting to. It's this long-term investment of really on a platform like social media, being very real and authentic, because people engage each other as humans. But then in that authenticity, it's what value do you create? And if that's your end goal, to build a social media audience or to put yourself out there around value for other people, as a brand, it's really how human am I as a business? How human am I in communicating the solution to the problems that my audience has? How human am I in the way that I talk and the way that I speak? And that just makes us very much more accountable for what we say. Because in that human conversation, we have to really understand how to communicate the value. And to do that, we have to know the value. And so that brings us to the business. And if we understand, it's kind of like I like to approach this from a 3-step process, to kind of get to where Gary Vee is talking about this investment where you're not left behind, you're holding this mind share. You, as a business, have got to understand the value you offer in rands and cents. Once you understand that, it's how humanly can I communicate that to people who matter? And then on social media or on video, on the profiles, it's just what do I need to do to make sure that people get what I'm saying and can make a decision that allows them to experience a better life that they're going for. And that's where Sean spoke about this research. You've got to put stuff out there and understand if it really connects with people. Gone are the days of spending 6 months planning this intricate marketing program that is this silver bullet. It's really about small connections with people that are meaningful in a bigger picture. And if we can understand how that works in the context of being human and delivering value as a business, I think we will safely journey to a sustainable place. Otherwise, we are going to be fighting against the grain and not with the grain.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
Very good.
No, absolutely. So I'm just looking at some of the questions coming up, but perhaps for the sake, there are a lot of guys in a situation now where you guys have, I hope, really given some good handles on, when you frame this up from the fact that you really want to help people, that helps with fear, like perfect love drives out all fear. So when you actually have the love of people in mind to offer them value, actually the fear diminishes and you get out there online and say, well, I'm going to give value to people. And I think that can be helpful. But so let's hypothetically say, and maybe we can go 2 angles. I've got one business. I really don't want to punt my one business at all, but perhaps we can use that as an example, because I have an extensive database on my one business, Identibet. But let's just, before we get there, let's talk about a startup. Maybe the guys here listening, like they've maybe lost their income, or maybe they need to reinvent something. And so if I wanted to, sell my t-shirts, which I've got a fancy design online, obviously I can go through a traditional means, but like one of the questions here, like Toby, or was it Trish saying here, what happens if you haven't got a lot of resource to give out? You're giving, but you're not receiving. Maybe you guys can take us through some of the questions you'd ask when I want to take a business online. Put yourself in the shoes of some of these guys. They're either reinventing their business. I'm Ian, my mate, doing Zoom training sessions with his bicycles, getting guys to get back bean cans out their kitchen cupboards. People are literally having to reinvent some of their businesses. So perhaps from a startup perspective, from reinventing your business, what would be some of the first steps you would take in, getting your head around building content and building this authentic relationship? What would you guys suggest they start thinking first? Sean.
Okay, so I've got a couple. Okay, let me maybe start here. So the first thing before you're launching either a campaign, a content, or a business, whatever it is, you can treat it very similar, is ask the question, who is my audience? So who is my target market, in another word. So who am I trying to reach, or who am I going to sell to? So once you understand that, you then move on to the next one, where you ask the question, where is my audience? For example, if I want to sell a t-shirt, like you mentioned just now, probably upfront, the best place to be would be, okay, I've got my own personal social media page where I'll have an element of loyalty coming in from my friends and family that know me. So that's one opportunity or area I can sell straight away. The second area is to then market it using, so I would always suggest any business, make sure you have your own web page of some sort. Have your own stake in the ground, and you want to create a digital footprint, which means there's some things you own and some things you don't own. For example, I don't own my followers on Facebook and I don't own my friends, because all of a sudden tomorrow Facebook changed the algorithms. So when I post, only 10 people see my information. Therefore, if I spend too much resource or energy on Facebook or an external, any type of social media, as soon as they change, my whole business has to shift with their changes. Where something like a website, on a business perspective, it's mine. I change it and I decide how it looks and what it looks like. And if I've got an online business or an e-commerce store, I can then market that product straight away today using Google AdWords. So I could then bid on particular words and I'm going to get traction straight away. But you don't just want to do that. So often people fall in the mistake, they set up their websites and then they run their Google ad campaign and that's where they leave it. So what you also want to do is catch and build a sustainable audience. So building an audience or building a following takes years. It doesn't happen overnight. So that's where, so from day one, when I start my business, I start giving out information. And I think Trish said there, what about trade secrets? I'm not giving out trade secrets, but let's go back to your dog parlor. You've got this massive database of people. What you've got, and I know you mentioned the other day, you have all the most popular names of all the dogs. So, I mean, that's great content. Like I could then share on my social media the top 10 names for 2017 for your dogs. Or, you know, like those are the sort of things I can start doing. I can build an e-commerce store around that because they're already pet owners. They're already loyal to you in one way. So I start creating content as well as developing my website. So that's the one thing. The secondly is you want to, so you got your website, what you own, you got social media, which you are building a following around, but that following must translate into you grabbing their information. So creating a database of some sort that you have ownership on, that you can communicate as you please. And the way you do that is by what we were talking about earlier. It's about being engaging. It's about creating content for free where people feel like they want to entrust you with their information. So like I did that 130 kilometer run around my garden, which was a total mission. I beamed it live for the full 24 hours. People could come online and watch. So part of that, there's a number of reasons why I did that. So one was obviously it's a live video, so it's going to communicate to all my followers that I'm live. So I'm going to get a lot of people coming on and viewing that video. Secondly, I am showing the community, hey, look here, I'm running 130 kilometers. So when I'm giving you information or I'm telling you about a running shoe or I'm talking about running equipment, I've got street cred. I've done it. I've done the hard yards. I don't just talk the talk, but I also walk the walk, which is very similar to our beliefs. You know, we've got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And then once I've done that, I can then ask people for their subscription and build my audience around that.
So that's brilliant, Sean. So Mike, we've spoken a bit about, I don't know the expression, I always get like the rapid response or quick feedback loops and, you know, putting stuff out there. You know, the Scrum model spoke about this waterfall method of thinking and coming up with a plan, and you eventually launch your plan and you realize, oh my gosh, that's not what people want. So in line with, so like Sean says, you need to work out your audience. You need to start getting street cred with a bunch of guys. And part of that, and we've spoken about this, is firing stuff out there, looking response. And I think Sean mentioned it as well, is firing some content out there, seeing what catches. And then you start to rapidly, almost on a 2-week cycle, put stuff out, gauge response, adjust. And it's almost the sense of quick adjusting, not this long-term 20-year. It's actually changing our way to short sprints, adjusting short sprint, which is very much the Scrum model. Maybe you can chat a little bit about that as guys start to think about getting out there, launching businesses.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the biggest principles behind the marketing world and this digital world adopting terms like Scrum and Agile versus Waterfall is really just around digital allowing us to be a lot more measurable. And so, you know, the old world, the old way of marketing, the old way of building a brand was very one-directional. and now consumers can talk back. And so we can validate ideas and potential marketing campaigns or business models, or, you know, whether we're adding value or not, on much shorter cycles, which means we spend a lot less money to figure out whether or not our idea is going to work. And if we can get our idea to work with one person, which is where what Sean was saying is really important, you've got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. If I can deliver value and manage someone's journey with my business or my brand or my philosophy or belief to a better place, that they can see that I'm a better decision than someone else trying to fill the same box in their marketplace, I can potentially do that for other people. And so the best place to start, like Sean said, is really with your own network. It's, do I have a very practical business model or value proposition as an individual? Can I add value to one person? If I can add value to one person, I will probably add value to more people. And generally that is within our network, because we live in the context of immediate value add and feedback, because that's how we just kind of get through our day. I'm hungry, I need to eat. And so once we've done that, we can start moving on to different places. But the principle is keep it small and keep it as practical as possible. You know, if you're going to go out there and print 5,000 business cards and build a website that's going to take 6 months to develop and has 500 pages, you've invested a lot of money into not really knowing whether all of those 500 pages are relevant for your audience or your network to actually engage you in any meaningful way. And so, you know, there's two, I just want to talk into, I see Trish and Toby have got two really brilliant, and even Genevieve down here have got good questions. And, you know, I want to start at Trish and just touch on what Toby has said. Trish, you know, the beautiful thing is we live in a connected world, and it's no longer about our competition. It's no longer about the person with the biggest budget is going to win. It's if you have got a real way to add value to people, and you have got a network that supports you as a person who can add value to their lives, all your competition is doing is just really spreading the word about your market. They're not competing directly against you. And in this attention economy, for lack of a better word, it's about mind share. And so it's not just when we compete as a brand or as a business, we're not just competing against people who offer the same things as us. We're competing against people who are trying to take the time away from our markets to engage with our business. And so, you know, a stupid example, but someone sitting on the couch watching Netflix, instead of looking at our ads and clicking at our ads online, is someone stealing attention away from our business idea. So, you know, the more people out there promoting the idea of what our business can deliver helps us retain mind share in a market. But our job in that mind share is to really fulfill a value that no one else can. And so in the context of my world, in the value that I can deliver, how am I 10 times better? And if you can figure out that, I really believe your competition becomes irrelevant, because you have a sustainable competitive advantage that's based on real human value. And if you're constantly testing that and validating that, you enter into this almost automatic, and there's a lot of terminology that's been thrown out there tonight. So I'm sorry if this gets really wordy, but you know, it's almost this like iterative process of validating your idea. And we do that automatically, and that's innovation, for lack of a better word. I say, Mark or Sean, hey, I've got an idea. And you guys say, hey, listen, I like it. I'm prepared to pay you X amount, not that much. But if you did this, I might be able to fully commit to what you're asking me to do. And so I have to go away and innovate what I'm offering to say, listen, I've solved the problem. I come back with better value for you. And that's our responsibility as human beings, not just as businesses in the world that we live. You know, if we're going to join together in creating a better future. And I think if we approach it like that, we start losing this fear of giving away our IP. And people will automatically choose the person that they see as the best in the industry. And the only way you can be the best in the industry is giving away something that says, I'm the only one who can offer this. And unfortunately, at some level, that is IP. But it's a real thing. You know, if you live in that space, it's a practical thing. And so, you know, to jump onto what Toby is asking about, very specific legal consulting services that have huge impact on clients and potential clients. So the stakes are really, really high. But he's talking about very much a market of one. And Toby, that's, you know, you've got to start with a market of one. If if you can't offer value to one person, how can anyone ever just try and add value to 1,000 people? And so you're in a very unique situation where the relationships you would potentially build with your clients are much deeper than perhaps a big business, mass marketing business like a Game or an MTN or one of these big conglomerates. Your value is around building a deep relationship that people understand the stakes around. And so you're not in a bad place, but digital is the new world. And so how do you communicate and deliver and manage that experience of value creation for your customers one-on-one in the digital world? And that's really the process that you have to follow. And so it is a very real digital thing. And I'm not sure, Mark, if that does answer your question. I touched a couple of points there, but to go back to the lean thing, it just allows us to be a lot more accountable for the money we invest and make sure that we're responsible decision makers around where our spend's going. That's the value in digital. It's just accounting.
So just staying a bit on Toby and Jen. I mean, I kind of know some of the work they do, but very broadly speaking, to people who are professionals who've got very specific, whether it be a doctor or a lawyer. I've heard this asked in other forums. They say, "Well, I'm a lawyer. How am I meant to go digital?" But maybe Sean and Mike, just give us some creative ideas. Because I think people immediately think, when they think digital, well, I've got to, they've got even restrictions on what they can do in terms of advertising their services. But there are different ways they can build their credibility as a person without blatantly actually giving any confidential, information out, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, let's maybe choose two, like a doctor and a lawyer. I mean, those are the two professions that are, how would they go about building a brand presence, a credibility on digital, and just spitball for like 1 or 2 minutes, maybe, just to throw some ideas, around how.
Sure. Shall I start with this one, or Sean, do you want to have it?
Go for it.
Cool. So, I mean, it's a lawyer and a doctor here, right?
Yeah.
So those are very much service-based businesses. And so you're selling time, you're selling a potential outcome or a consulting side of things. And so, there is only so much IP you can give away for free. The real value that people experience is trusting you or learning to trust you in order to pay you money to get the service. And that service is a designed experience. And so even if you are a lawyer, you can give the journey that you want to take clients on away for free on your website. So you can describe to them the value you're going to deliver without delivering the value. Because as a lawyer, you have a responsibility as professional to uphold the standards of your industry. And so you would be charging for that, giving away the stuff for free. But that journey is really around what value you offer as a lawyer. So how are you different as a lawyer? How are you special as a lawyer? Why should people choose you as a lawyer for what they want compared to someone else? And that's really the conversation you've got to have with people up front, to say, if you want a lawyer's service, I might not be for you, but if we're going to work together, this is what I can offer. And so it becomes it's a value creation transaction. And it's the customer is always going to be okay paying me money as a business if they understand that they're going to get value that's worth the money they pay. And so it's mutually beneficial. It's not, even though there's bargain buying and all that kind of stuff, in professional services, it's really how well do you describe yourself as an expert? How well do you position yourself against the people around you? And how often do you rock up and communicate that to people who matter in the relevant places, like a website or a Twitter or an Instagram? And so I think it can become a very practical process. It's really just unpacking the foundations around a business, a brand, and then how do I market that, or how do I communicate that? That's my take on service-based businesses.
That's good. Sean, I'm going to give you the doctor. Mike's taking the lawyer. Maybe you can very creatively tell us how a doctor might go digital. But I just want to add a brief thing onto what Mike was saying. I mean, part of this, aside from just getting your name out there and building credibility, there's some very real digitized processes, and I'm talking back-end processes that can really speed up the value of the service you give. So, for example, I've got a friend who's actually built a whole back-end system for lawyers, and he's taken one of the many processes and the many paperwork issues they have, and he's digitized it. Honestly, for something, it's like he's done a McDonald's on it. Where McDonald's took hamburgers from 30 minutes to 30 seconds, he's done the same thing over one of the legal processes, and that's also part of being digital. Is is it's not only just building on a social media platform and building your street cred, but it's actually using digital to deliver a far superior, faster service. And we're speaking a lot about the front end, but there's a whole back end that goes into your actual quality of service you can produce just by using the ability to, use digital and the speed rather than paperwork. Sean, you've had some time now as I've waffled on to think about a doctor. How would a doctor or another professional, build up with the limitations they have? But I really want to engage some of your own creative brain and just to help the guys.
Okay, so when you think of Banting, who do you think of?
Yeah, Noakes.
Tim Noakes.
Yeah.
Why? Because he is the brand. Tim Noakes is Banting. Yeah. So what I really believe in and what I take is you've got to build a brand around you as a person. It's very, so for him, it was a particular type of diet. And maybe this is speaking to Jen, where he went Banting and he called it something and he marketed it and he was the face behind it. He was controversial. He got into trouble, and actually all that trouble and controversy just made him even more popular, and so on and so forth. So as a doctor, you can give away certain amounts of information. As a lawyer, as a dietitian or whatever, there is information you can give away or talk about or be contentious about or have arguments or do webinars like we are now, talking around diet or chatting around some of the problems you're facing. And you don't have to talk about specific clients, but you can bring in examples and have conversations around it so that when people think about dietitian or a doctor, you're the expert. So when they think about a particular issue, or if I think about Banting, I need to communicate with Tim Noakes. So when I was preparing for my first 100 miler, I thought, okay, cool. This is a great fad at the moment, this whole Banting thing. Let me bring it into my video. So I started Banting. I contacted Tim Noakes. I emailed him and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be running a 100 miler on high fat only. Do you want to do a research thing on me? But while I was asking that question, so I was getting the boss in Banting, and I wanted to grab his followers to potentially view or watch some sort of study. I didn't get it right, but that was my intention behind contacting him or bringing him into my story. So again, as a professional, a doctor, you can bring other professionals in onto a panel like this. You can have a conversation, and this could be your social, this is your social, so like this, what we're doing now is being broadcast on social media. So you could use this type of forum. So there's many different ways to do it, but what you're going to do is sit and really think about who's my audience, how am I going to get to my audience, and what I'm going to say and what I'm going to develop around them. I don't know if I can give some other examples, or you want to move on to another question.
Well, I was just thinking as you're talking, I don't know if we know a dietitian or anyone, but it'd be great to get a really good dietitian on one of our next webinars to talk about the effect of diet and how diet, the effect of diet on business. That might be something we can do. That was just a little slide joke there. I'm sure, Jen, I think we can chat about that. But you know what I'm feeling as you guys are talking? And I'm going to go deep now. I'm going to go spiritual. It's a nice, Jen. There's a deep thing I think here that I want to touch on. And it's something Jason's mentioning around value. I wonder to myself, honestly, if some people aren't prepared to put themselves out there, there's like this hurdle in place that they don't even see themselves as having value. And that then disables them from even taking the step into a social media world where I think it is a bit like stepping out of a boat. I don't think there is some technical help we can give and some creative ideas we can give people now. But maybe you guys can touch on it. I'm going deep here. So, I mean, not everyone can scuba dive, but maybe speak a little bit from a biblical perspective around identity and around value and around actually encouraging guys, listen, you've got something. Now just get out there and your journey, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a pet cremator, your journey is significant. And there's people that probably, I believe God knows they want to hear you. Maybe touch a little bit on that, both of you.
Who's going first?
Sure, that's a deep hole there, Mark. But it really is. I think it's rooted in identity in many ways. You know, as a Christian, one of the things I said earlier on is one of the most exciting parts of this journey for me has been to discover the role that value creation plays in business and how important that is. And if you're in business or you're in any kind of community, at the end of the day, it comes down to the people at the end of that touch point or that on the other side of the conversation. So we're dealing with people at any level of any journey at any stage. And that just makes it really human. And so in that space, it's a very scary thing to put myself out there because it feels like I'm selling myself or I'm disqualified because I've done something that's, you know, this whole mental game starts taking over. But I think if we keep it practical and if we understand in almost economic senses, and this is why I love talking about these things in the context of brand and in the context of marketing and in the context of business, because it really just makes it simple. And so I can almost remove myself and say, economically, if I'm a human being who has value to add, and I see the economy we're living in as the economy of God, it's a kingdom economy. And as a part of that economy, I can add value. It's no longer about me. It's about growing a kingdom. And so then we are part of a bigger picture and a bigger movement. And that principle makes it easy for me to put myself out there because I'm not painting a picture about myself. I'm not putting myself at such huge risk for scrutinization. I'm putting a bigger journey out there. I'm almost saying, this is the battle cry. This is where we're going. And that's the level of value that the studies have been done at around. People are looking for value at that level. You know, it's Generation Z, it's millennials. It's not just around how much more can I save on my purchase? How much less can I spend? It's how much more impact am I creating in my life and the lives of those around me? And a lot of people are making financial decisions around that stuff. So, you know, value, if we can understand value as human beings, it is a difficult thing. It asks difficult questions. You know, in workshops, when you bring up, I'm sure a lot of guys are familiar with the Simon Sinek, and it's the why, the how, the what. That model it's a very nice way to understand that we're dealing at a deeper level. And it's difficult for people to answer that question. Why are you in business beyond making money? And some conversations are between partners saying, well, maybe we shouldn't be in business because there's a disconnect around the value that we believe we can offer to the world together. That's okay. You know, because there's better value that you can create and deliver in a different context. And if we constantly raise the stakes to that level of understanding value, I think we will grow as people, but it's a hard place to live in because it's very scary. You're under a spotlight. Mm. Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of my journey and my experience.
Yeah. Sure. One of my favorite scriptures is that one where the spies go into the promised land. And the one statement they say is, we saw ourselves like grasshoppers, and they also saw us like that, pretty much. And sure. How you see yourself is how other people will see you.
Wow.
And especially online, you know, like how you see your product or what you believe. If you don't believe in your product and you don't believe in yourself or you don't believe in your business, go do something else. Literally, stop what you're doing. Go find something that you do believe in and do that. Or in the context of your business, reinvent it so that you can believe in it again. So if you don't believe in yourself or see yourself as the giant, other people will see straight through that. So yeah, that's for me, yeah, on a deeper level, Mark. That's gold.
I mean that's interesting because on the one hand, people will argue that this is such an inauthentic experience. The fact that we're even talking, we're not, you know, can't touch and feel and see each other, we, you know, in the flesh. Yet it would seem like that this marketplace is almost more brutal to inauthenticity. It's like my business partner keeps saying to me, you know, it's a consumer's world. You know, like Mike, you were saying earlier. I mean, if you're not giving real value, there's so many options there that it almost seems from a biblical perspective, you have to know what your gift is. I mean, as we've been talking, I've been thinking one of our businesses we could put out there is to literally have this. I mean, there are many guys that do it, but we try and prophesy what your gift is because if you're not working authentically in your gift on an online audience, it's going to be very hard to translate value. I mean, does that resonate?
Yeah, very much so. And I really love what you were saying, Sean, because it's almost like how much conviction, not only how well do I understand my gift, but how much conviction do I have behind it that it really is meaningful in this world that I live. And that's a very personal journey. And that's actually the journey that we should all go on as businesses or as individuals, because that gives us the grit to get told no, your idea sucks 15 times, or get turned down in a sale, or get not many people saying yes to your bra invite. You've got this vision of community. It's the conviction you have behind your idea. And there's a sales analogy. It's like you can't just phone people twice, because you're basically saying to them, I don't believe in my idea enough to say to you 15 times, you need it, you need it, you need it, you need it. And if we've got this conviction as Christians, surely that extends down to the value that we add as Christians in this world. And, social media, Facebook, video, websites, these are all technical skills that we can learn. They're tools that we can use to deliver real value. And, Mark, you said this might be perceived as an inauthentic experience, but we're still here calling each other by name. We can see each other's faces. We can see our facial expressions. And it's the only opportunity we have right now in these times to connect in a real way. And so it very much becomes our authentic experience. And all the emotions that we would put into meeting someone face-to-face over a cup of coffee, I am subconsciously putting into this moment right now, because this is my context for authentic experiences. And so we do it automatically. But if we understand the value and have conviction behind it and learn the technical skills, Facebook, digital marketing, websites, or just communication, then we're more empowered and we're more confident to put ourselves out there. And you've got to start taking that risk with something small, the audience of one, and grow it from there.
So just to add on to that, so I think another important thing to note. So firstly, it's got to be valuable to yourself. And I think that's the one part of value. The second part of value is, how do I take what's valuable to me and communicate it in a way that it's valuable to my audience? So remember early on, we were talking about your different audience groups and whatever. So it's taking, and maybe I can just show you a little example of one of my videos. I'll share my screen and you guys can have a quick little look-see. So let's go to all. Okay. Is my screen sharing there?
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
Okay, let's do this.
Yep, coming up. Yep.
Okay, you can see my screen. Okay, so can you see my social media popping up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Let me just pull this down a little bit. So running shoes. I'm trying to sell running shoes. Now, how do I make that valuable to an audience? Okay, so I got a whole bunch of stats here. I want to show you how I would look at something like running. Okay, so here's my Facebook page with my videos. Let me get into my videos quickly. I did have it open. I was going to move a couple of things around here. So if I go into my web analytics here, I did a little video on Sophie, and now it doesn't want to go into my analytics. That's so funny. So I created a video where I wanted to get an audience to buy my product, but I couldn't go on there and pitch like a sales thing. So I know my product's valuable, but I want to communicate that to people during COVID lockdown. So what's happening in the COVID market at the moment is everyone is running in their gardens. One thing they realize, it's flipping hard running in your garden. You're running a lot slower and it's a lot harder. So, and then I had already done my research on a video around Sophie a while ago, where I created a video with her, and I ended up with, on the second take, when I took the research behind it, I've got now 63,000 views on that. And I'll play the video quickly.
Yeah. Wow.
Just tell me if you can hear sound.
It's coming.
When it plays.
No.
Can you hear sound?
No.
No sound.
Okay, I'll just pause it there for a sec. So what I did here, so it looks like, oh, wow, that's a sweet video, amazing. So there were a number of things. So what was happening in the lockdown is, so kids are going crazy. I use that as part of the humor. You know, like my parents are driving me crazy. This lockdown is going crazy. Straight away, there was a viral runner, a guy who did Comrades in His Garden named Benny Ruth. So what she did is I heard this guy, Benny Ruth, ran Comrades in His Garden. That's crazy. Then straight after that, I got her to ask a question to Gerd de Steen, who is a Comrades runner, who's like a legend Comrades runner, and ask her, how are you training at the moment? And part of what I was doing is going back to the comment earlier about the Banting, Tim Noakes, is I'm trying to engage her audience and her following. What did she do? She replied to the video, and she replied to the question that Sophie asked on this video. Straight after that, there was a little funny scene, and directly after that, there was she spoke about Trailshed and that you can get 10% off Trailshed. Yeah. So if I go to my stats now, I can go and look, did that video do anything for me? Yes. So lockdown, our sales stopped totally. But straight away, I got a whole bunch of web traffic coming in from that video. If I go and I can show you where my traffic came in from, my overview. All these things are in different places here, so I can't see what's going on. This webinar thing. Oh, there we go. That's better. So I can change my date range. Let me just get into the date range. So let's just do 3rd to the 28th, apply. So you'll see I go into my social media. I got some sales in there. I can click on the social media and I can look at the dates. When did that traffic come in? And here we go, where I posted the video and the spike in traffic over that as that video went viral. I got a whole bunch of traffic in and that converted into sales. So really what I'm trying to say, so I used our humanity, us as people, what we're going through, our current situation, to create a video that ended up translating into sales. It was unrelated. I didn't ask people to buy online. I just told them right at the end of the video, there's a sale. But I used our current situation to create a video. So that's what I'm talking about. Adding value doesn't necessarily mean giving information. It's connecting with people. It's talking about our lives, talking about where we're at. It's making jokes about where we're at as people and people connecting with that. And then when they want to purchase, they know I sell stuff online. They know I sell Trailshed, so naturally they want to ask me. They know I ran 130 kilometers in my car. Naturally, when they got advice, they want to ask me. So I'm building the brand around me and adding value.
So we have been going. That's brilliant, Sean. I mean that's proper, and those stats are proper. And I mean there's no better evidence than your own story, really, and the stats that go behind it. I'm seeing that we've been going for an hour now. So I think we should probably, I did say an hour, for the guys, and we should probably start tying things up. Sean, and maybe some parting shots for some of the guys. I'm reading through some of these questions as well. But interesting, Sean, your journey, and I'm not saying everyone's going to have the same journey around video content, okay? And I think we said it up front, and I think Gary Vee said the same thing. He said, just posting stuff doesn't mean that you're going to get hits. And we've joked about different guys who we know that have posted things and they get jealous when they see you get 63,000 hits. When that is a lot of hits, that is a massive amount with an iPhone. It's not like any fancy Hollywood stuff. I mean, if you think 63,000 people, that's the first thing I think is, World Cup 95 final, the whole of Ellis Park Stadium has seen that video. And that, I suppose, really begins to get powerful. But Sean, you've been on a journey, and I think it's more a principle I'd like to speak about than anything, where, I mean, I saw some of your first videos at Hirsch's, and just speak around encouraging people that you can improve, exactly. That's the point. You don't have to get it 100% right first time. It's almost the heart to say, listen, I'm going to throw stuff out there. I'm going to do, and you've got better and better and better, and perhaps you want to speak a bit about that. And it's more principle that people can start applying to their business and to their own gift that they start to recognize.
Yeah, but I think with everything in life, it's you got to start somewhere, and you'll always look back. Like I look back at some of those videos, and I'm like terrified when I look at them. But it's quite funny because a lot of things, even in those videos, worked really well. And what I remember learning from that journey was what we've been talking about today, and that's that human connection. Is people want you to be real. So people don't want, like, what do you watch? That's, ask this question: what do I watch, or what do I engage with? You know, that's for me is the biggest principle. It's like what, and I'm trying to get on all these different platforms, even TikTok now. And I'm saying, what is viral? What are people enjoying? What are people spending time watching? And it's generally what I like watching too. So I want to create videos in a similar way, but then have an element of it that is going to somehow pull people in, and I'm going to build my business around it. So you've got to have a real strategy around posting your videos. You don't just post stuff for the sake of posting it. And sometimes you do. So I've got, I mean, we can't go into it all tonight, but I've got different categories that I place different ideas or videos in. I started speaking about it a bit earlier, but ask this, if you can answer this question for your business, this is the key. Would I watch what I'm putting out there?
Yeah.
If not, don't do it. You know, and try do something that you would watch. And in doing that, you will fail and you'll make a fool of yourself sometimes, and sometimes it'll be wrong. But you know what? Making a mistake is just as human as getting it right.
Yeah.
So people appreciate mistakes, and people are forgiving when you do make a mistake, and you can always come out and apologize, and people are happy with apologies. You know, it's just being human. If I'm able to be human, but at the same time, very strategic about my humanity. It's like, okay, I'm going to create something that's engaging, but there's a point to it. And how am I going to bring even that point in a very engaging way without people thinking, oh, flip, this is a sales pitch. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much, Mark, to go into.
There is, and we don't have the time. And I must say, this has gone incredibly quickly. But just to almost tie up what you're saying there, Sean, I sense that just to say to the guys out there that if you are pretty convinced, and that's why we love prophecy so much. I mean, at Citygate, that's why we keep on saying prophesy, prophesy, because it confirms your call. But if you have a sense that you're called to either be a doctor, dietitian, or a legal expert, or whatever that is, then authentically embrace that journey and start to practice it and make the mistakes, because you're in your gift and your call, you're going to find through a creative process your digital brand that's highly necessary for your business at this stage. And I really, you know, and part of a massive hurdle is just to make that decision. I'm actually in my grace. Let me put myself out there. It might not look like the Sean's video or Mike's video or Mark's video or Mark's website, etc. But I'm actually going to authentically put myself out there and embrace this journey. And I think that's, if anything tonight, I really trust that for guys, that would be something big that people would embrace. Mike, I'm going to give you a parting shot, but I'm going to speak about another big biblical principle, which I think you embrace big time, is the art of listening. And you know, I think part of what we've got to do and learn how to do on the digital space is to listen to what people are saying to us, to listen and hear what is it that people want. I mean, Gary Vee speaks about, Sean, he said the same thing. He said he watches people all the time. I mean, that's something I love doing. I mean, it's something any pastor loves doing, is going to even a shopping center and watching people. But there's something about, like you saying, like, what are people watching and what do people want? It was something that Mark said last week about Mr. Price. They genuinely wanted to help people, and they genuinely were generous. But they gave people something they wanted. And the only reason they could do that is because they were listening. So Mike, why don't you take us away, finish us up, and then we will come back. Some of these questions, Siko, I'm not sure how we answer, but we might get back to you on some of those around law. But go for it, Mike.
Yeah, I think Siko's got a good point there, and it's definitely the times we're living, you know, the different levels and how we legislated or regulated as businesses and as professionals. But you know, really, Mark, what you're talking about is how do I actually, and I'm losing the word here, but it's essentially, you know, when you're on a platform like this and you really just lose your train of thoughts completely. And you need to take 5 seconds to just stare into the camera and say, guys, I admit defeat. Give me 1 second. So that's literally just happened to me right now. Mark, I got distracted again. Sorry, you're on my mind. Mark, just give me 1 second recap there.
Yeah, let me. So one of the biblical principles is, and it really is a big one, is the art of listening.
Sure.
And I know that's something that Gary Vee speaks about. He watches people, and it's like looking at people, listening to people, and then delivering, something that they need, because your heart is to serve them.
No, I'm with you. And there's 2 points I want to make in that space. So, one of the biggest gifts, and it's in a book I read quite a while ago. There's a great author called Bernadette Jiwa, and she writes a lot of books around branding and marketing and just being authentic in that space. And in one of her books called Difference, in one of the first pages, she says the biggest gift you can give to someone is to really say to them and truly look at them and say, I see you, and really see them for who they are and what they need. Because often what we say and what we do isn't necessarily in line with what we need and what we're trying to get to. It's just our best solution in the space that we're trying to navigate and where we're trying to get to. And it really is, Mark, it's about listening well as individuals around the people that need help, and how can I offer value in that space. And then listening to what Sean's talking about the responses that we get to the stuff that we put out there. And the best way that I find to think about this is stories. So, what is the bigger picture? What is the big story that I'm living out? And just as real and as best as I can, live that out on every platform I can. Social media, Facebook. And in that space, you'll probably find that there's other people trying to live the same story, or responding to the story that you're trying to live and saying, I want to be part of that. Let's go on this journey together. And that's how we think. We don't think in videos or brands or social media channels. We think in stories. Yeah. And so it's, what's the story? And to keep it real, to keep it authentic, and to keep us humble, it's how well do I know the people I'm trying to serve? And to do that, I've got to listen. And so that listening allows us to understand the story we're trying to tell and make it meaningful for other people. And so I hope I've, as a parting shot, kind of linked those two together. It's really understanding and listening, and then painting a picture or telling that story and living that story out on those platforms that makes this a valuable and a sustainable journey. And yeah, that's kind of it from my side.
Well, to both of you, well done. I must say, I feel the Holy Spirit has led us tonight into some wonderful biblical principles, practical principles. I think there's a lot more. I agree. Maybe some of the guys listening, if you would like to hear more on social media, if you've got more specific questions and you'd like us to go deep into some areas, we could potentially spend an evening on building a video, or we could spend an evening. I would like to do a lean brand strategy, Mike, at some point in the future. But Sean and Mike will no doubt be helping us into the future. We have Nick Graham lined up. He was going to be on tonight. We've got Nick Graham lined up for Thursday night. Nick has got an amazing entrepreneurial story around his own business and his own faith journey. But he's got a massively relevant business for a time such as this in COVID, is safety, health, and risk management. And for any of us going into, for a lot of us in business, we need to get our heads around what are the new regulations, and how are we going to, again, harness the opportunity, deal with clients in a new world, which is going to be with us for a while. But I want to say, I think for a lot of us, compliance is like a swear word. It's a bit like the legal part of the Bible. No one wants to be compliant, but it's a massively important part of business. And Nick is a very colorful person with a colorful story. And no doubt the Holy Spirit will lead us into some deep truths, as he has done tonight. It's been a lot more than just practical, business talk. There's a massive spiritual dimension. I really appreciate Sean, Mike. Thank you so much. Guys, we will catch you Thursday night, 7:30, back on Zoom. Zoom's been a win. And thank you, guys. I don't know if you want to say one last good night, anything on your mind. It'll be great just to say good night. But from me, good night. Sean, Mike?
Sean, hit it.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. I think, it's such a fun space to be in. Go for it. Put yourself out there, chat to guys, ask questions, and enjoy the social. It's fun.
Yeah.
This is my first webinar. So Mark, Sean, thank you so much for having me. And you know, this is also just testament to the new world we live in. You know, I also feel like this has been a deep, meaningful experience for me, and trust it has been for everyone else. So thanks for listening, guys. Looking forward to doing this again.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Team, go for it. We are going to, as I keep on saying, I trust there's going to be an economic revival. So business and like the Israelites, they went and Sean, to come back to the spies, they took the land. Let us go and take the land in a digital landscape. And certainly with Jesus and his Holy Spirit fueling us. We will say good night, Sean. You can, we can cancel the meeting now, but cheers, guys. Keep safe. God bless.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Cheers.